I'm Dan Rogers. Today we are here with Nune Perez, who's running for Amarillo City Council Place 3. Nune, welcome.
Nice to meet you this afternoon.
Well, let's tell the voters out there who you are and why you're running for City Council, and why did you choose Place 3?
Well, I'm actually been a South Plains boy. I joined the military, joined the Navy did about 5.5, 6 years. I came back, went to WT, and Amarillo's kind of been my home. This area's been my home since. Why I chose Place 3? I mean, it's for me, it's just a number. That's one of my lucky numbers, actually. There's a tritium, trifecta. And as far as running for office, it's one of those things that I've actually been praying on. I've been representing a lot of folks, especially when I was at WT. I was actually a Senator of the Year for the College of Education and Social Sciences. We actually revamped the entire student code of conduct, the Constitution, the judicial governance of the entire student body while I was there. There was a lot of things that were just kind of outdated and needed to get up with the times. I've been a volunteer. I volunteered as soon as I got out of high school. I went straight to the military, and I got to see a lot of different communities, same size as Amarillo, smaller, larger. What made them tick? What made them great? And one of the things was just that community unity and their investment within the community itself. A lot of the greater communities about this size, or as long as we invested everything we had right here, home, it was an amazing environment, even for those that were visiting, just like myself.
Now, when you talk about investment in the community, what are you talking about? Money or time?
It's really both money and time, balancing budgets, looking at where we're at. My current job, I'm a quality assurance operations manager, and I do a lot of risk assessments, return on investments, those kinds of things. And when I look at it, when it comes to this community, I've been living here for just about 3 years now, and some of the basics aren't being taken care of. I mean, we're spending a lot of money, say, on revamping a lot of equipment, whether it be vehicles, instruments, those kinds of things that are running through the city. And quite frankly, it all starts with the infrastructure. I mean, we're a growing community I would say, a 1950s, 1960s platform at the moment. We got to figure out how to grow that, especially considering we recently got the growth with I-27 going north. We're becoming an atrium, as I would say, for the United States when it comes to commerce, and I think we can definitely outset that rather quickly.
Yeah, you got the ports to plains.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I-27 is going to be 287 is going to become I-27 going north, and 287 is going to be a 4-lane highway. Mm-hmm. And I guess they're going to extend the I-27 south of Lubbock, mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think they've actually been working on for a lot of years.
Yeah, there's unfortunately
but it kind of stops at Big Spring, I think, at I-20 now.
Correct. Yeah, I believe it was going down I-10. That's where it needs to get down to. There's a lot of growth. Quite frankly, you look at it, Amarillo is really at a pivot point. This city is north and south is a key, and east and west on 40. I mean, everything's coming through here. And I think we have a lot to offer as a community. I mean, we're growing. I myself, I like to believe, as I've been told, that I represent a growing diverse unit, such as the Hispanic population, uniquely a conservative population, surprisingly, that not many folks know about. We very much keep to ourselves on a lot of things, but I think this is a time where we need to grow that diversity and show that that conservative side of ourselves and how we can grow a community just like Amarillo has been.
Well, Hispanics have traditionally been more about community and family and that sort of thing, and hardworking. So it's good that they want to step up and be a part of the leadership.
We should. I mean, you're looking at 35-40% of the Amarillo community is Hispanic. We need to step up. We need that voice. And I understand one of the biggest things I teach my daughter. She's only 8 years old, but I teach her even now. Your vote is your largest voice. I mean, hands down. Serving, submitting, ballots from overseas. It's one of those things you have to vote. I mean, that is the largest voice you have.
Well, it's the great equalizer. Mm-hmm. Your vote, my vote, is equal to Supreme Court justices' vote, to every vote is counted the same. Doesn't matter what station you are, how much money you have, or how poor you are. The poorest person in America's vote is equal to the richest person's.
Exactly.
And if people could get that through their head, they'd never miss an election. Mm-hmm. And it's appalling to me that people take it for granted and don't exercise it.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I've had a lot of brothers and sisters in the military that have fought and ultimately given a large price to it. And that's one of the most instrumental things we have as an American.
Yeah, that's really what they're fighting for.
Yeah.
And then they don't vote.
Sure.
I can't get my mind around it. I just can't get my mind around it. There's some things I can't understand.
Well, those are usually $1 million questions for all of us, and understanding how strong a person's vote is in this, especially in this country, especially here in Texas.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. But we're doing what we can to get people informed and get them to vote. So we're trying to make strides. We believe that if we can get rid of the electronic voting, more people will start voting because they'll have more confidence. Mm-hmm. Because we want to go back to hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible ballots that can be verified and get rid of the electronics. Because the biggest vote percentages-wise were in, I think it was 2000, and before that, 1972, both prior to electronics in voting. More percentage of the population voted. Before we had early voting and before we had the machines. They don't want you to know that.
That's why we educate grassroots.
But if we go back to voting on election day, in our precincts, on paper, I think you'll see a huge surge in the number of people that vote. We'll eventually get it.
We will. I think we will. I definitely would agree with that. There's many. It's interesting how we have a lot of our folks that just they close their eyes to only certain viewpoints. They're not open to them.
Well, I think a lot of people, they don't want to ask the questions. Number one, they don't know what to do about it. Mm-hmm. They don't understand it. They don't understand the process. Maybe they are told where the polling places are. They don't understand what all goes into an election. Mm-hmm. They just don't have a clue.
Unfortunately, that's kind of true. As I really walk and get with the Hispanic community, that's actually one of the larger questions that I receive a lot is, you look at a large population Hispanic, but you look even deeper and see how many of those actually voted, and it's actually rather small. Mm-hmm. And most of the biggest questions that I get from them is like, well, we don't even know how would we do this? How do we vote? What do we need to do to vote? So where's our focus, and how do we focus? And I think that's where, I consider it a win either way if I can at least get more of that community to open their eyes, get that voice that they need out. Yep.
You just have to go one by one and explain it to them, mm-hmm. door to door, and make sure they're registered. Mm-hmm. And then it's the hard part is pulling them to the polls.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I come in. That's what we try to do. So that's why I created our We the People Town Square platform. It's a private network. It's about education to voters and informing them of how the process works so they can learn and be involved. Mm-hmm. So to me, the more people we can get involved in a community, the better.
It's a win.
So I don't care about telling people who to vote for or how to vote. Just be informed and vote and then show up at your council meetings, your commissioners meetings, your school board meetings. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to say anything. Listen, and you'll quickly know the questions you need to start asking. Correct. But we got to get the people back involved because we're a republic, not a democracy. Democracy is top down, mob rule, dictatorship. That's what they want you to believe that we have. But our founders didn't take the bait. They knew the flaws in that system. So we have a republic. That means we elect people to represent us, and they're the ones that have the authority, the elected officials, not the government employees, not appointed boards, not appointed anything, the elected officials, because they're accountable to the voter.
Correct.
Right. So you want people to be engaged and informed, and they'll make the right choice.
Right. And I think that's one of the hardest things. A lot of people have asked me. They're like, "Well, you're running for a position. Do you ever understand what happens whenever you just can't please one person or one group? Like at the end of the day,
you're not supposed to.
I can't. There's no way. No one in here." I was like, you know what? I'm a God-fearing man. I can tell you one thing. There's only one person, one being that can do that, and that's God. And I strongly believe that.
Well, most people disagree with him too.
Well, my faith,
or they would obey.
I'll tell you, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was in a car wreck, and I can tell you, the Lord exists. Simple as that. I'm blessed to be here right now in front of you because of that. So,
well, that's good. So, what type of business are you in? What do you work?
So, actually, I work for Cacique Cheeses.
Okay.
When they open up a facility here. I've become somewhat of a subject matter expert in new dairy facilities. I help build Lone Star Dairies in Canyon, Texas. And I also went back to my hometown, helped start up Continental Dairy Facility Southwest in Littlefield, Texas. It's one thing that's growing in this area is dairy and the environment. I mean, the agriculture business is actually kind of growing, and and there's a reason why Cacique chose this area, chose Amarillo to be here.
And why was that?
Amarillo. I mean, you look at it.
Location.
Location is a big plus, and honestly, they actually kind of fell in love with the community, the events that we have here, and the family traditions that most folks have here. Like they could see it just being out in town. A lot of people hold themselves to their home values, and Cacique is a family-owned business, and they based it off of that. They continue doing that. It's very family-oriented. That's something that fit well with the culture, even coming here to Amarillo. I mean, that's
great.
Yeah. And quite out there, being a quality assurance person. I look at risk management. I manage the food safety program. I actually get to sit on. I sit on a global food safety initiative board with Safe Quality Foods. It governs the processes for dairy facilities around the world, and what kind of risk, how to mitigate risks that we have. I mean, our food supply is, well, we just keep facing increases in prices everywhere, and there's a lot of risk to mitigate through that. Knowing how to do that or having to do those assessments, that's kind of one thing that I looked at even in the community.
So what do you think the main driver of food prices going up so quick is?
The economy is interesting. I mean, you look at it, you look at the supply. I mean, even from the food safety side, I look at it, how many we've lost, especially everybody looks at eggs. Actually, I went out grocery shopping this morning with my wife, and boy, did I couldn't hear the end of it. Like, that's twice as much we spent for groceries, and that's twice less than we usually normally eat. It's like, well, it happens. You look at different instances. You look at avian flu, for instance, for the birds. I mean, they kill off an entire building's worth of egg-laying birds. So your eggs prices are going to have to go up. Interesting enough, that particular virus actually affects even our dairy cattle. And that's something that we look at as well. Luckily, pasteurization takes care of that. We pasteurize our milk.
You can't pasteurize the eggs.
Yeah. Well, there is a pasteurized egg.
Does it actually pass through the egg?
I don't know the basics of it. I really haven't dived deep into it, especially considering it's not really my background. Is more in dairy as far as milk is concerned. I haven't really dove into avian flu itself and how the dairy, why do we have to kill off an entire flock?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's a virus, right? Mm-hmm. So the virus is going to mutate out eventually.
Yeah, all viruses do.
So what's the big deal?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at it. I mean, what's interesting is
if you don't let it run its course, then it creates a bigger problem, in my opinion. So if you kill your flocks, it's not allowing it to mutate to where they build a resistance to it.
Yeah, you're building that immunity.
Yeah.
Look at even us as humans. I mean, you look at polio, those kinds of things. I mean, you start growing immunities in your own body.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
like measles, mumps, all that. I had everything when I was a kid. My parents weren't too worried about it. Well, if you die, we bury you, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to go through that to build up the resistance. So when you get old, you're not going to get it. Mm-hmm. Now we vaccinate everybody. Well, the vaccines only last 10 or 15 years, and nobody thinks about it. So when they're 50, they get the measles and die. Mm-hmm. Right.
Kind of like cold and flu.
I don't know. I think you got to let nature work sometimes. I think we can over-medicate.
Yes. I mean, you could. I mean, it comes down to basics, even when I teach hand washing. Mm-hmm. You just put, say, for instance, COVID. A lot of folks, the biggest push was we need to sanitize everything. Okay, well, that's nice, but at the end of the day, it's like washing your dishes. Mm-hmm. You're just going to put sanitizer on the dish and then put it in there. You're not going to scrub it or wash it with soap first. You got to hand wash. Those kinds of those little details. Nope, mm-hmm. It's you look at the sanitizer pricing or supply just skyrocketed. Soaps stayed the same for sales. It blows my mind.
Yep.
Now there's a lot when it comes to the economy. I mean, I think we're blessed being here in Amarillo. We have a lot of outlets. We actually have a lot of homegrown sites. You have Rancher Storefront, those local places. And ever since moving up here, I've had the privilege of meeting some of even the older families of Amarillo. The Bivens, those kinds of folks, the homegrown areas, and actually visiting ranches, local ranches, and you get to realize just how well just taking care, self-sustainability you can be around here. I mean, we don't have to depend on a lot of the larger corporations as far as supply for stuff. We could easily use homegrown right here in our community.
Yeah, the more self-sufficient, the better. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're running for city council. What are the main 3 things you're wanting to get done on there, city council?
Well, that's actually interesting enough. It's a very shared goal that's been a shared goal for many years, and that's infrastructure, managing the infrastructure that we have. Actually building it for the future, not just maintaining it.
Are you talking about water and sewer?
Water, sewer, streets even. My background, a lot of safety and security is a big thing. I did law enforcement when I was in the military, and then when I did lived and worked in Canyon, I actually was a part of the Canyon Volunteer Fire Department. So, understanding first responders, that concepts, what they have to go through day in and day out, mm-hmm. taking care of that group as well. Honestly, we build better roads. I bet you our equipment and our fire apparatuses last a lot longer. I mean, just the trip here down Georgia, I think I hit about 18 potholes.
Really?
And I guarantee you, most likely I'll drive back, I'll find another one. Infrastructure, you have to get to the basis, and it's that root cause. You got to find the root cause of what affects these budgets. We want to balance our budgets. At the end of the day, everything costs money. I mean, that's one thing that is unfortunate, but we can do it if we take care of the root cause of why we're having to spend extra money or outside of a budget in the community. Quite frankly, being open, transparent with the community is one thing. We have to be as transparent as we possibly can, and actually being able to teach the why behind it. Why did we have to make a decision the way we did? I think that's what's missing right now for a lot of the community. I mean, I hear it several folks that I live here, several folks that have moved here ask me, why did the city of Amarillo vote this way? Why did the council vote this? Well, you have to really ask them. And sometimes I don't think you get the right answer or the straight answer. I think you get a press answer. And you have to, I think that's what's needed around here. I mean, transparency is it may be just a word or a bullet point, but at the end of the day, you have to live it. You have to show it. It's the why you did it, or why you went that way.
I guess one of the big issues that's in the news is the AEDC. What's your opinion on all of that?
The more I've researched it, the more I look at it. I was like, the ADC, I think it is a organization or a group that was set up with the best of intents, but not the best of actual oversight that it should have had. That's a lot of our community money being spent elsewhere through a lot of different organizations without an actual check or verification on it. And unfortunately, it wasn't. I don't think it was set up that correctly. And you have to have a checks and balances in organizations like that. Unfortunately, I don't agree with sitting council members being a part of the board, even in emergency status. I believe there should have been other personnel appointed. So I feel that that's a conflict of interest. They're sitting on a panel or a board that they oversee. I think that just didn't sit well with me. I mean, you're overseeing something, you're governing something you oversee. I mean, it's gonna go the way you want it. At the end of the day, it just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like they're trying to make some changes over there, so hopefully they'll get all that straightened out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess some people might say, do we need an AEDC?
Yes. Considering the growth, you look at it, considering the growth of Amarillo, considering the growth that we're expected to see, how are we promoting Amarillo? Who's promoting us? Unfortunately, or fortunately, we have 5 council members, and amongst us 5, we look at it as, can we all promote these businesses coming out here, rebuilding that community.
I guess what I would ask is, okay, you say we're going to see all this growth, mm-hmm. but is it coming anyway, or is it because of the AEDC?
That's a hard question. Hard question to answer, because even the folks that are in the AEDC right now are having trouble trying to find out the right numbers on exactly.
Yeah, I think they're trying to. Are they trying to take credit for something that was happening anyway?
Correct. That's the problem. The records aren't there. I mean, it's one of the. You're correct.
I mean, my concern is you got to be careful, because sometimes things morph into things that you don't expect. Mm-hmm. I'm very for as little government as you can possibly get by with, because it always veers off. So when you have groups like this, people that get in there, then it becomes a way to protect their business instead of encouraging new business. Right.
Correct.
So how do you keep that from happening?
Well, in essence, there's different avenues you could take. I mean, there's one, actually looking at that return on investment you're seeing from the ADC, like you're pointing out. Some investments, I think when I was looking at Mr. Fairley's review the other day, he's pointing out one investment was an amazing investment. I mean, you looked at, it was $2,000 per person that you were getting from, I think it was the Amazon facility.
Yeah, but they came here anyway. So it's like, all right, well, we invested, but they're still going to come here. I mean, you have to look at it as, is it an entity that we really need? You're correct. And that's where I think that's where that risk assessment is. Look at all the different organizations we have, different groups that we have. I mean, ADC, you look at Chamber of Commerce, you look at those kinds of items that we already have these systems in place.
You have other entities out
Chamber
there.
of Commerce, that's just a private kind of like a nonprofit deal. It's really not related to the city. That just serves businesses, right?
Which, as you said, as you pointed out, you have businesses already coming. How effective is the chamber? Why should we function? Why
To
we
me,
give an ADC?
the way it works is Conseque tells people we love Amarillo. We moved our business there. They moved their business. It's word of mouth.
Correct.
It's ambassadors of other businesses that actually bring in the business. It's not the AEDC. That's my opinion.
That's a fair assessment. It really is.
I don't think we need it. To me, you should take that money and put it in infrastructure or parks or something to make Amarillo better, or give it back to the taxpayers. And I think you would get a better return. And then you're not picking winners and losers. You don't have, but that's just my opinion. They won't do it because once you start something, it's very hard to stop it because they've made commitments. Now you can stop it. I would just go to all the business, say, here's how much money we have left. We're going to divide it amongst you. Take it or leave it. We're done. Cut the sales tax. Give it back to the people. But that's me. I know government, no politician wants to turn loose any money. Never happens.
Yeah, that's a very sad part about it.
But my theory is it's going to be people like Conseque who moved here probably on their own. I doubt the ultimate decision was the AEDC. And they're going to be the ambassadors for Amarillo.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You look at different organizations, what other entities could assist that group. I mean, you look at what are the other needs you need around here. Dairies, for instance. You look at, so say, for instance, we could take Conseque. You look at it, what other items can we potentially get here? We could potentially get another cardboard making facility. Could get plastics, those kinds of things.
Well, we have such great infrastructure with the highways and the airport, but nobody focuses on the air base out here. That is just a massive opportunity for somebody. But we have so many things in the Panhandle, and they all ignore it, and they focus on things like baseball. That's everywhere. When we have the big ranches, you got the cattle industry history, and the cattle industry here, which to me should be the major focus. And you had the railroads, and we still have the railroads. We have one of the biggest switch yards in the country here. The history of the railroads with Paladero Canyon, if you focus on what's unique about your community and you market that, people will flock to come see it. We got the biggest museum in the state of Texas down here in Canyon.
Correct.
Nobody knows we even have it in Amarillo.
Yeah.
Paladero Canyon. People that live in Amarillo hardly know it exists. And I don't understand that. Why doesn't the city market the Panhandle? And because of our uniqueness.
And you're correct. Look, the way I look at it, Amarillo is the seat of the Panhandle. We are the biggest community in the Panhandle. All the other smaller communities, they're great in their own right. But you look at it, they all look up to Amarillo. What is Amarillo doing? How are we pivoting ourselves? You're absolutely correct. I spent 3 years in Paladero Canyon with the Texas Panhandle Heritage Foundation. And you're right. I mean, knowing that's where I got, I was, honored to meet several people from the benefactors for that particular foundation. And those were one of the things. What are we marketing towards? That organization was a nonprofit organization. They went everywhere to market Paladero Canyon. They didn't market per se. Yeah, they went as Texas Musical, but at the end of the day, it was Paladero Canyon. And you're absolutely correct on. We have so much here. We do. American Quarter Horse Association.
Yeah.
You look at investing behind them as well. This
Ranch
area,
rodeos.
Ranch rodeos, exactly. I mean, what are we doing for the community? You're right. And unfortunately, I haven't been privy to the information in the past. I haven't looked at it directly. But now that I'm running, I actually have been really diving it deeper into the numbers to see, all right, what are we spending on budgets? Interesting enough, there's a lot of discretionary. What does discretionary mean? What is actually there?
You have a choice.
Yeah, exactly. What are we actually spending there? I mean, it's that growth is, and like you said, it is coming. We just have to prepare for it, and we're not. Wastewater, sewage, those kinds of things are not ready. You look at. I mean, I actually live in a City View community. I still trying to figure out my dumpster route when they actually come pick up our dumpsters on our street. I don't know when they still haven't got that figured out. And it's not at a behest of the actual city per se or the employees of the city. I think it's at the behest of they didn't plan it out correct. They didn't plan out to support this growth, and we have to get there. We have to be there.
Well, the problem is most of the growth's going outside the city limits.
We have to grow the city limits.
So it's not growing inside the city; it's growing outside. You go between here, south of Hollywood, which is the city limits, to Canyon on VFW Road. It's like a whole city in and of itself that's popped up out there. It's mind-numbing. It's grown together just west of I-27.
Mm-hmm.
And on I-27, it's pretty much
the same. I think my biggest question is, what's the city of Amarillo doing to be able to incorporate that? How can we?
Well, they don't need it. What they need to focus on is within their boundary. Mm-hmm. Why is it not growing within? Are they not providing the water and the sewer? Are they not? Is it a school issue? Growth follows the schools. Mm-hmm. So maybe we're doing something wrong, and people are moving to Randall County out of Potter. Mm-hmm. To me, that's what we need to take a look at. Why are we not focusing on within the city limits? That's the purview of the city council. Mm-hmm. Why are we pushing people out? Or are we pushing them out? Or is it tax rates? There's a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually been property tax rates. Those have increased slightly. But you look at, we have to, as you say, we have to look at our population. Can our population actually afford it? Considering the rest of the economy, the pricing of just living.
I got a statistic from the tax assessor the other day, and 20% of all real property accounts are delinquent. 76% of all business accounts are delinquent in Potter County. What's that tell you?
Yeah,
it means people don't have the money, or taxes are too high, mm-hmm. or both. That's why they have to bribe people to come here with tax abatements. That tells me our taxes are too high. Reduce taxes. You'll bring in more money. But they don't understand economics. And I don't think we need property taxes. I think it's a complete horrible idea. You have taxation without representation, because if I own a property and I live in Denver and I own a whatever property, a lot in the city limits, I don't get to vote in the city elections, but I'm being taxed. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
No, it's not. You should.
And if I don't pay my tax, they send the sheriff and take it. Mm-hmm. To me, you should have a sales tax when you buy the property. We're done. And if that happened, Amarillo would be the most booming city in America overnight. They'd have so much money, they wouldn't know how to spend it.
It's interesting.
Get rid of it. If people own their property, we'd have a whole different world. Mm-hmm. Because the other unique thing about that, if you own it and nobody can take it, you'll fight for it. But with the tax system we have, they just keep creeping them up higher and higher, at some point people are going to say it's not worth it. I don't want to own anything in Texas. It's already happening. People are moving out of Texas because of property taxes.
And that's also, I think, what feeds into that is overvaluation of properties.
Yeah, but that's by a bureaucrat, unelected bureaucrats
Correct.
assessing that value.
Correct. And
On a inflated price.
Mm-hmm.
That's not real.
no, and you can. I've seen, and luckily I've seen that even whenever I got to spend a few months over in California, part of the company, to learn the process. But even seeing the difference between the site of an apartment over there versus what a price of an apartment in Los Angeles versus the price of a 3-bedroom 2-bath here, you're looking at astronomical, and it's like you're seeing it live. Yeah, they're leaving L.A. by the droves compared to what we're seeing in Texas. But in the essence, are we getting any better? Are we learning from that mistake?
No, we're going down the same path.
That's the problem, I think.
Yeah. We're doing the same. We're going down the same path. What I don't like about it is it's going to be under Republican rule, right? Mm-hmm. So-called conservative rule. So, but we can fix it. It's so simple to fix. It's just whether or not there's so many people that have vested interests in all these old systems. And it's hard for them to give them up, and they're the ones in charge, right? Mm-hmm. So, but we can do it. We're going to get it done. Once I get rid of the machines, we're working on it, then we focus on getting rid of property taxes. If we get rid of property taxes, then we get rid of the income tax. Then we'll have a free country that can boom, because you don't need any of them.
Yeah.
They're all control mechanisms.
Control the populace.
Yep.
Just the way, it's a very similar way that, and there's a reason Rome fell.
That's exactly the reason.
We're doomed to the fate if we don't study our history.
That's right. And the reason all republics fail is corruption. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So we either fix it or we collapse.
That's where I believe I come in. I mean, I don't have right now. I don't have shall I say, a backing of corporations or the good old boy club, any of that. My focus isn't that. My focus is actually the people. I mean, my growth in life has been very interesting. I've grown dirt poor, literally dirt poor. I lived with my great-great-grandmother, survived the Great Depression. She still had that same lean-to house in Lamb County. Only one room in the house had wooden floor, and we had a wood stove and an outhouse.
Yep.
This was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's the way, and that's what I survived.
Yeah.
And just understanding that concept is like, you know what? There are people here that live that.
Sure.
They don't know. They have to choose. There should never be a choice between taxes or food. And unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at in our community. We have to fix that.
Yeah. Well, that statistic I just gave you, they're choosing food over that. Mm-hmm. So we need to fix. We just need a comprehensive overhaul of how we tax. Mm-hmm. It's simple, in my opinion, but I'm very simple-minded. I don't claim to be brilliant, but a little common sense goes a long ways. Just look at it. It's not fair. It's wrong. So in our property tax, I can prove, because I used to represent over 2,000 people a year at appraisal districts in Travis County, and even represented the RTC at appraisal districts, getting the federal government's property taxes reduced. I convinced them to do that. I love the irony of it, right? Mm-hmm. And I was good at it. But every value, and I can prove every value is wrong. Every property is either underassessed or overassessed. So what does that mean? That means they are either subsidizing you or they're stealing from you. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair system?
No. it's not.
To me, when you buy a property, you should pay a sales tax on real estate like everything else. And when you buy it, you pay the tax and you're done. You can roll it into the note, whatever, however you want to do it, doesn't matter. But that's how the local governments are funded. Mm-hmm. And you're done. It's not hard. And then you own your property. And then you won't be penalized for investing in Texas. Because if I have $1 million over here in a local bank, I'm not paying property tax. Mm-hmm. But if I take that money out, buy a lot, and build a building, and if I'm Conseque, I could have kept the money in the bank in California. But when they come to Texas and invest in Texas, mm-hmm. they're penalized. Because then they got to pay a wealth tax on a subjective value. Not what they paid for it. It's some bureaucrat's concept of what it might be worth. And that changes every year.
The idea.
It's wrong.
Yeah. It should never be
it's not fair.
Yeah.
But when two people come together, I choose to buy your house in City View for whatever, $500,000, and I write you a check, I pay that sales tax right then when I close it, and we're done. No more tax until I sell it. That's fair. And because it's fair, people will happily pay it. Mm-hmm. Texas has an income tax, business income tax. They call it the margin tax, but they get by with saying we don't have it because of what they call it.
It's all in the name. Franchise
tax, margin tax, but never an income. And it's on your gross income. If you're a business, you pay 1% of your gross income to the state every year. No deductions. So if you bring in $3 million or $30 million or whatever, it's 1%. Simple. People pay it. And it's based on income, but at the end of the day, what that really tells, it's really a sales tax on everything, right? It's gross income. Mm-hmm. So like rent, people don't think it's really a sales tax on rent of 1% or anything else, mm-hmm. right? But the state gets a lot of money from it, and it's pretty simple. So instead of calling it a sales tax, you could call it a margin tax on everything across the board of 1%. You're done. Mm-hmm. And 10% of that should go to the federal government, paid by the states, and that's how the federal government's funded. We're done. And you live within it. Every state could do it. It's simple, and costs basically nothing to do it. There's ways, if people would think about it a little bit, to make it efficient, fair, and get rid of all this complicated stuff that just irritates everybody and strangles the economy.
We shouldn't have hurdles to survive day to day.
Right.
You're
right.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. It should be simple and easy, and nobody should be able to take anybody's property and tax them out of it. But I could give you a list a mile long of people that I know and that I've dealt with that had to sell their property because they couldn't afford the property taxes. In many cases, they were paying more every year in property taxes than they bought the property for when they started out in life. Mm-hmm. And I saw a lot of it in Austin, and now I see it here. And it's just wrong.
How can we promote I know when I was growing up, the American dream of success?
Let people keep their money. And the problem is now money's debt. Marxists changed that in 1913. Another one of those constitutional amendments we need to get rid of. But money isn't money. It's debt. So we have a system where if everybody paid off their debt, everything collapses. Nobody would have any money. It's debt. And you have to continue to increase the amount of debt, or things go south. And if you start to have what they call deflation, which means your money buys more, the government freaks out because it collapses their debt system, right? So you have to create more and more debt to keep the system going. So if your population starts to decline, maybe you have something bad happen in the economy, like a pandemic maybe, then weird things start to happen because people aren't borrowing. So people have to borrow more all the time. You didn't have that in the 1800s. You had sound money. People could save their money, do their business, save their money because it wasn't inflated away, and expand. Now they inflate it away, so you have to borrow. That's the reason they inflate it. Nobody sees it because they have to make you borrow more. But you think you're getting ahead, but you're really just going deeper in debt. It's all an illusion.
Yeah, that goes with especially our national debt. That's unfortunately.
Yeah, well, it's with all debt.
It just keeps.
They got the cities convinced to borrow more. Oh, we got to fix potholes. Let's go borrow $30 million or $100 million, and because we don't have the money, and we don't, so it's going to take a while. So they borrow, they raise the tax, and they never pay it off really. Every entity is continuing to have to borrow more. Shouldn't be that way, but it's the way our system's set up. It's backwards, but it benefits the banks, and it benefits the wealthy because they've already earned their money and they have no debt. But the poor, the middle class, they're paying the price for them, for those that don't. So it's it's kind of an insane system. But nobody thinks about it because they're caught in it and they've lived in it all their life and they can't see it. Nobody thinks.
You become accustomed to it. It's
you're the frog in the boiling pot, right?
Or, yeah, it could also be that I love history, I really do, but it's give the bread to the masses, they won't rebel.
Exactly.
Romans. You keep giving them the basic necessities, they're none the wiser, and you have to look at that's the reason why there's a reason that our truly transparency. It's the why you have to vote certain ways in the council. Not everybody understands that. Not everybody knows that. But you have to be able. You represent the community. You have to be able to sit down and say, you know what, this is why we voted this way. These are the brass numbers. These are the numbers that we came across. It's the only way we could go. This is what happened. This is why it happened. Now, what are we going to do to fix that? Why are we having to spend more money towards this particular budgetary item? Why do we have to increase the funds that way?
Yeah, how do we solve? First, you have to identify the problem.
Correct.
And then come up with solutions. Once you come up with the solutions, implement them.
Mm-hmm. You find that everyone. It's interesting that I see is everyone knows what the initial issue is, but how many years have we gone by and we have had this same exact issue on everyone's platform?
Yeah,
and it has not been completed.
Yeah, and a lot of times people don't want to fix issues because they want the issue to run on. Mm-hmm. It's like the border. They've been talking about that for 40 years. Trump's trying to fix it, but you have a lot of resistance on both sides because they really don't want to fix it because they want that issue to run on and raise money on. I just want it fixed.
Yeah, just fix the problem.
Yeah, I don't like problems because there's enough weird stuff that'll pop up to keep you busy.
Very true. It's an unfortunate truth. There's too many unplanned issues that will arise, and you end up in a firefighting mode most of your life if you continue having those issues. And that's one reason why I believe that we really, in essence, we don't need to. My grandfather used to tell me, he's like, you don't need to just talk about a problem, you just need to fix it.
Yep.
If you think that's an issue, get in there and fix it. And that's one thing that I've learned, and it's come, like I said, it's come to a time where that's the reason why I'm stepping in. I'm stepping up, having that courage to step up and to run for council seat 3.
Well, it does take a lot of courage, and we appreciate you taking that step. And do you have a website that people can get a hold of you, or
I currently have a Facebook page.
Facebook?
Yeah, I use Facebook quite a bit. The website is actually still being built. Should be done by actually Tuesday. If I remember correctly.
What's the name of it? What's the URL?
Haven't got the name just yet. It'll most likely be just my name for Amarillo. That's about it.
And you pronounce that Nune?
Nune, yes.
Nune Perez for Amarillo, probably?
Yeah, probably.
Nune Perez for Amarillo.com?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. We'll find out more about him on his going to be brand new website. Mm-hmm. And is there anything else you'd like to explain to the voters as to why they should choose you?
They shouldn't just choose me because I'm somebody different. They should choose me for who I am. I know that at the end of the day, if you see me out at Market Street, you see me at Walmart, you want to stop and talk to me, I have no problem sitting there and listening. There's a difference between hearing the people and listening to the people. And I've always listened. There's no reason why everyone should be hearing. You should actually sit down and listen to everyone, understand. That's who I am. What you see you'll see me for face value. There's too much energy to try to put on a mask like other politicians. That's not who I am. Nor do I even promote that. Face value is what you get. I'm a son of the South Plains and the North Plains. Like I said, I've had the privilege of helping work on a ranch up here. Been a part of law enforcement and firefighting and giving back to the community that way. I just want to be able to have that honor to actually represent the people and the council itself.
So you're the son of the Panhandle soil.
I joined the Navy because I didn't want to taste dirt. But you know what? When I was in the Navy, I came running right back because the sand is just blowing, and I love it.
I don't understand why so many people in Amarillo went in the Navy. Like it's the farthest place on earth from water, I think.
Well, I had a commander ask me that. He was like, "Why are you in the Navy? Of all places, you're from the Panhandle of Texas." I was like, "Well, I didn't want to taste dirt in my mouth all day, and unfortunately, I ended up being a military master at arms, a military police. I was like, I'll pick the one job that hardly ever goes out to sea." But I got to spend a lot of time on harbors and seeing and just working with community. I got to do a lot of interesting things when I was there. My first tour was in D.C., which is very interesting, being on the military side and learning how D.C. works from the military aspect. From there, I went to Japan, and then just kind of deployed in the region there. And I really enjoyed my service. I really did. Like I said, I never gave up giving back to the community as much as I could. I mean, I gave up a nice paying job at a grocery store to work in 110-degree weather down in Paladera Canyon. I don't know if that's the smartest thing in the world, but at the end of the day, you know what? Just to see people come in from across the country and across the world and actually showcase, as you said earlier, showcase what we have here. Mm-hmm. I mean, the awe that people from other countries come in Paladera Canyon, look at the backdrop and see, that lone rider across the rim, running across that rim with that Texas flag. It's just inspiring every day. And, having a part of that, it's just interesting to see the reaction of even the little kids. They're like, how in the world did that cowboy get up there? Little they know it's a little bitty track about 20 yards and only about 2 feet wide and, 100-foot drop either side. And that cowboy's just holding on to dear life and let that horse say, hold on. Let that horse ride him all the way up.
Yep.
And that's, if we had more, that's truly down to earth. More people common. I mean, that's the common ground, the common people.
Yeah.
And you inspire a lot. There's nothing like the majesty of a plains sunrise or a sunset.
Yep.
There's a reason why I came right back here. I had a choice. I could have easily picked a job in D.C. for my qualifications in the Navy, but I came right back here. Came back to, went to school at West Texas A&M. I'm working with quite a bit with Amarillo College, working with them even through Cacique. Even the folks that moved here from California asked me those questions. Like, Nune, how do you live here? One thing was the weather. As we discovered, we look at. I mean, we had a snow this morning, and now we're looking at t-shirt weather in the afternoon. So
yeah, it was really snowing yesterday afternoon.
Even then, they're like, "Is it like this always in Amarillo?" And of course, I kid with them. I was like, "Oh yeah, it's like this all the time." I don't know what to tell you. you just bring your umbrella and a coat. By the start of the day, I guarantee you'll be covered all day long. No worries.
Well, we have a variety, and I kind of enjoy it myself. I like, I lived in Austin for about 10 years when I was younger, and the weather just never changed. I thought, it's just miserable. Mm-hmm. Just gets hotter. Never even cools off.
Humid heat, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, of course, I work construction outside on these buildings. We're building those 30-story buildings, baking in the hot sun all day. Didn't think anything about it. Now it'd kill me, But we really appreciate you coming in, Nune, and
appreciate you having me.
And good luck out there on the campaign trail. And Nune Perez running for Place 3 City Council. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.